Okay, I know it's been a while. We're going to take a little walk around the yard, show you what's going on, because I know everybody's just dying to see what's going on in my yard. But anyway, the dwarf, what is that? Dwarf papyrus. Dwarf papyrus is doing well in here. Going to be like 2, almost 3 feet tall. And then other water plants doing really well. You probably won't see them, but there are tadpoles down in there. So must be in pretty good shape for frogs to say it's good. We had a pokeweed show up here in front of the window. I thought that was kind of cool, so I left it. Some other stuff showed up that's not so cool, but we'll take care of that. Our little black tupelo doesn't seem to be doing very well here, and I'm not entirely sure why. But we got some cosmos. Our rescue mums are doing okay. They were discounted after a hailstorm last year, so we snapped them up for half price or something. We have what appears to be a native aster here. I think that was gifted to us by the birds or something, because I don't remember planting that. But isn't that pretty? So, we've got that. We've got smooth sumac overflowing here. We've got cone flowers that I believe were gifted to us by the birds. I am going to have to do some trimming on my sumac colony because my aronia berries in there are just about getting shaded out, and I'd kind of like to have some berries next year, so gonna have to do some trimming there. This little spot, this is gonna get redone this year or this winter. Here's our tulip tree. It has shot up, I don't know, a foot or two since we put it in the ground. Beauty berries are doing all right. Doing all right. Oh, little jumping spider there. And then frog bellies. They're doing okay. This, I don't know what it is, but it looks kind of interesting, so I'm going to leave it alone and see what it does. That's what smooth sumac does in the wind. It kind of gets blown around and adopts sort of twisty, curvy shapes and everything. So that does make it more visually interesting. The 9-bark is over my head now, so that's kind of neat. The American chestnut I cut down last year is coming back and making a run for it. So that's cool. We have zinnias. Zinnias and cosmos have come up here now. Oh, I forgot to show you. This is my fragrant sumac. It's put on about a foot of growth or so, up and out. So I'm happy with that. This is horseweed, mare's tail, I don't know, something like that. And I am told that it tastes like tarragon. I don't know for sure, I haven't tried it. But there you have that. So, plus another reason I left it is because last year I saw ladybugs and some kind of insect eggs all over it. And that didn't seem like a bad thing to have around. Anyway, the staghorn sumac is marching along the berm there. And I'm thinking within the next year or two, I will have staghorn and smooth sumac mixed together in that area over there. So I'm kind of excited to see that happen. This is what yarrow does if you don't mow it or anything. It just kind of lays down and looks all soft and ferny and everything. I think that's kind of neat, so I leave it alone to do its thing. Some of these staghorn sumac they gotta be 20 feet. Gotta be 20 feet. And that's only like, well, they put on some of them have put on 100% growth since last year. And we started with 3 just a few years ago. So, if you want something to expand and take over an area, Staghorn sumac does a nice job. And I'll show you the fall color when it does its thing. Now, I thought this Japanese persimmon was done for earlier this year, but it's coming back, so we'll see what it does. Got our bundle flowers doing what they do. I think that's kind of a neat looking plant. Oh yeah. Check this out. Here's another pokeweed. Look at all those berries. Look at all those berries. From what I understand, the birds love these. And I think it's kind of a neat looking plant, so I'm going to leave it. I don't care if you call it a weed. I think it's a cool looking plant. Down here is a wild a cutting from a wild elder, American elder, that we got in the woods. And that one's doing okay. There was a purchased one down here next to this stick, but it didn't make it. And I think this is a purchased elder respringing up from the roots. I think. I'm a little less than 100% confident on that. But I'm going to let it go long enough to see what it is. But this one, if I remember right, you probably can't even see it. There it is. This one, I just sort of stuck it in the ground almost as a joke. And darned if it didn't survive. Through the heat of summer and everything, it actually made it. This high bush cranberry is dying, and I'm not entirely sure why. It never was right, but I think after it's lost all its leaves and gone into hibernation, I think I'm going to cut it off down to the ground and see what it does next year. This one is doing better, so that's good to see. All kinds of garden pinks. Got a volunteer redbud here, another volunteer redbud. Redbuds do not grow wherever I plant them. They just spring up in other places. My crabapple got eaten almost to death, but I think it's going to survive the season. And we will see what it does next year. That's a prairie fire crabapple, so I'm really interested to see what that does. This is my no-mow season experiment. Kind of between and around these 3 hazelnut shrubs, which are already starting to show fall color. But we got hazelnuts coming just all over the place. Look at those clusters. Hazelnuts everywhere on these, so that'd be kind of cool if we actually get any. Squirrels got them all last year, which isn't awful. But this is what this area does if I don't mow it. When did I start not mowing? I don't know. Anyway. So this was my no-mow May into summer. Decided to leave it all summer to see what it does. We had Maximilian sunflowers show up out here. We had some hollyhocks that bloomed. I'm going to have to trim this area back. This mulberry has taken off again. Haven't decided if I'm going to let that go. I may have to control it. I'm not sure. This chestnut is doing okay. It did get beat up pretty bad by the cicadas this year. But still seems to be healthy. And yeah, so there's that. I think that white stuff, what is that? I think that's bone set over there. I don't know. Some people call it a weed, but the pollinators love it, so I'm going to leave it. This is our morning glories taking off, a couple of volunteer trees. This was our vegetable garden this year. They were really old seeds, so nothing did very well. But that chestnut is, I don't know, 10, 12 feet tall. So it's doing all right. Hanging in there at least. Starting to see some hints of fall color on the sumac. The morning glories have pretty well taken over, but I think they're just gorgeous, so I leave them alone. So we got those deep purple ones there. We have these, lighter color with dark stripes. Here's the yarrow from behind, and this my little sumac jungle. And look at all of these. Look at all of these things. We hardly got any last year, but it's just loaded with them this year. I might collect a few of them and try and make some winter lemonade out of them. But I think mostly I'm just going to leave them for winter interest. You know, I bet it's going to look really stunning after the leaves drop. But yeah, that's got to be a 20-foot staghorn sumac. And they do not get blown around by the wind like the smooth sumac does. These are stiffer and tougher. They're not quite so rubbery. But we got cosmos in here. We got strawberries acting as ground cover, marching along the mound. We even have a few random strawberries show up out here. And again, I don't really know what this is. But I didn't plant it. I don't know, leave it alone. See what it does. My little cove with sumac all over the place. I'm going to trim these back this year. I think I'm going to favor the straight ones that stay pretty much where I put them. These were some deer radishes I planted as a tillage crop to punch some holes in the ground so things can grow, and they're doing their job. And this right here, the biggest zinnia I think I've ever grown, and all I did was ignore it. It may have been a bird gift, I'm not sure. Blazing star has already bloomed, so that was cool. Our little fences are covered with morning glories. You can't tell, but there are 2 persimmon trees down in here. That'll become apparent later on. Sassafras has put on a good foot, maybe 1.5 feet. So they're doing okay. This little area has all kinds of stuff in there. I'm not sure if I should mow it yet or not, but got some white indigo and I don't know, various other things in there. So we will see how things develop. And there you go. That's my yard on September 8th, 2024.